6:30. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, I had spoken to you before.
Yes, 1 second. I'd like to do a small moment of silence for the terror attacks in London. This is their third in a few months. They're really going through some tough times over there, and it affects all of us in small communities like this, in large cities as in Boston. So please, just a moment of silence for those folks. Thank you. And on a positive note, I want to say congratulations to the 2017 Narragansett High School graduating class. That was a great ceremony. You know, it was just all about, it was just fantastic. And I was glad to be there along with Cameron and Diane. I think it was a great show. I think they did a really good job. So with that being said, Mr. Spring, you got something to say before the
Yes,
meeting starts?
I thank you for allowing me to speak before the board as advisory chair. I looked at your
Could you just move that way
list that
so
you
I
have.
can see him? I'm sorry, Will.
Diane, I understand. I have
I have
probably
to-
worse than you.
Yes.
I looked at the agenda and I saw an item on there that to me concerns the advisory committee also. And I looked at the peer listing to take and see what other communities did in respect to that. And that's on the financial policy that you are going out and going to be looking at. I looked at communities like Air, which the FinCom does. One other community, the FinCom only makes that policy. I looked at other ones on that peer list, such as Athol, Shirley, and Winchendon. That was a joint effort by the Board of Selectmen and the Financial Advisory Committee. I went on even further to look at other communities, such as Amherst and also Hingham, which is a Finance Committee. There was also other communities which were listed, and I found one very much like what you're doing, is Wayland, but I noted on their thing that they involved the Financial Committee. No, also with that, about 3 weeks ago, I reached out to one of the board members of the Select Board and mentioned that since 2013, the Advisory Committee has had a financial policy and also a stabilization fund, probably a year or two later after that, and mentioned that in 2013, we had gone before a Board of Selectmen, and they had chosen to take and have it as goals, and it was on the website up until a year ago. I find it very discerning that the fact that the comment I got back is that we're not working on that, and then to see this, it feels to me that if we're not included in that type of conversation, that you're saying one thing that you want to work with the advisory committee, and then you turn around and not get us involved in that particular aspect. I mean, that's really, I don't know, it doesn't feel like we're working together. I've reached out, and I mean, at our last meeting, I talked to my board about reaching out, and they want to review the policies before we start talking to you. And that's what we're going to be doing on Wednesday, is the stabilization one. We'll be reviewing that again, and our hopes were to come before you and have a discussion on that and have it as a joint policy. The same thing with the financial policy that we have. Maybe you want to get it a little bit more, but the basics are there. We looked at the best of the communities in 13, and that's kind of where I'm leaving it, is that it's really up to you if you end up including us or not. But I feel that my gut feeling says the way things are going, I don't feel that that's what the Board of Selectmen is looking at doing. And I mean, that's my feeling based upon what I see and what I was told back of. We're not going to be working on the financial policy by the individual I spoke to for the selectmen.
Okay. Well, let me rest assured, correct me if I'm wrong, Carter, I mean, obviously, we've talked, I mean, the board has talked to a certain degree, and more tonight, we'll talk more tonight, but my personal thing is, there's, was it 67, 87 financial policies? I forget the number, it was like 67 or 87 policies that need to be developed. Free cash policies, petty cash policy, how do you manage your debt policy, there's a whole bunch of things that need to get done.
Right, that's.
With those being
there's two-
done, listen, with those being done, they will be headhunted by the Board of Selectmen, but then they will be turned over to the financial staff here, where they will have their input and how things are gonna work and how it does work. And then obviously, once they're done with it, it will go in front of the financial or the advisory committee for their review and, for any changes that need to take place as well. So we will keep you in the loop, keep the board and the committee in the loop.
Well, the reason I brought that up is there is a financial management policy, which includes a few of the things that you have that are not part of what the
Understood.
advisory would end up having a great input. We would end up reviewing that and probably agreeing with it because you've gone by it, your department.
That's what we're trying to
But
do.
there is financial issues such as free cash, stabilization,
Yep.
et cetera.
Uh-huh.
And actually, what you end up doing is not using one-time revenues. I mean, we have that. We also have it about debt. It's the debt process.
Well,
And
unfortunately, we're
also about
moving,
capital.
we're moving forward, and obviously, the policies that are being developed with assistance with UMass, the College Institute, as well as the stuff that's being developed here by our financial team, will be reviewed by the Finance Committee or the Advisory Committee, along with our staff here. I mean, we all have to work on the same team. Your input is just as important as everybody else's. Nothing gets voted in unless it gets reviewed.
Well, it doesn't feel that way because we don't have any input to
Well,
that.
we're just starting, Will. We're just
I
starting.
understand that, but I
This is,
mean,
this is like, we're building the
but when
the
you're
footings.
told that that's not what we're gonna work on, and all of a sudden it appears in the workshop.
Understood. No, I understand how you feel, but rest assured. I think the other members feel the same way. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I think I'm sorry, Doug.
No, go ahead.
I think, if you don't mind, so, I think that Will has some valid points, and I've been saying that for a while. I think that personally, in the beginning, I haven't seen it all yet, so I think that the vetting part should be done here, and then, of course, in my opinion, we should work with you, because there's a piece that's ours, and there's a piece that is yours, and I think that when we work together through the budget piece, that's where part of the policy is, and the procedure is, and the one-time revenue, and we have to establish that. But I think that there are, and there were, policies from the advisory committee on the website, and it would be, good to review them. But in the beginning, I mean, I didn't see everything through email, but I think that we should, if we try to all do the vetting in the beginning, that's like, 7 of you and 5 of us, it just, already this is overwhelming in how we do that, and I think sending you something a little bit more vetted, but I think if there are things in here that involve the finance committee,
Absolutely.
we should.
The reason I bring it up is that agreeing on process and procedures ahead of time by both boards saves time, so there's no disagreement later on.
And that's why, again, we're taking it
We
forward.
haven't even developed the formula yet.
Right.
We're taking it
That's the
forward.
issue here.
I mean, there's a lot of
Once we
communities
develop the
that,
formula, I agree with John. Nothing has been held from any committee in this town, and that's an insult to me as a select board member. We are just starting it. It's not even on paper yet. Once it gets through us, once it gets through the team that we pay to take care of it, then it'll be formulated, and you're gonna get the same copy I'm gonna get. And you're gonna be able to review, and I'm gonna be able to review. And then we're all gonna be able to get together and chat about it.
well, you can see what
How
I'm
is
talking
that?
about when you have the policy that was set by goals by a select board before you, and it was taken off a year ago. That gives a negative connotation to
again,
not only me,
I don't know
to
why it was
everybody.
taken off the
Well, again,
web,
we're
though.
moving
That
forward. We can't work in the past. Don't
Okay,
look in the rearview mirror.
I
Look
just,
forward.
I thought I'd bring it up
If I may.
when you talk
Thank
about
If I
that.
may,
Yeah, hold on.
if I may,
Go ahead.
I was on the board when the advisory committee brought forth these recommendations for policies and procedures. They were very good at the time. The board at that point, though, was unwilling to commit to them to be a policy and procedure because we have such rocky financial
It was a
situations.
disarray.
That's why we considered them as a goal. They were certainly a target that we were interested in working forward to.
Mhm.
Now, why, who ever made the decision to take them down? Because this board did not vote that they are no longer a goal for us, so they should still be on the website as a goal. Whether they are a goal a year from now is a totally different conversation.
Right.
And again, the Collins Institute that we're getting from the grant, I'm sure they're gonna provide us some excellent information.
Yeah.
But I don't believe we should just completely ignore what the advisory committee spent a lot of time and effort on developing. They had very good ideas when this board, the select board of 2013, wasn't focused on our financial stability at all.
Understood.
I mean, we weren't looking at developing policies and procedures. The advisory committee took the initiative to say, okay, here, we've put together this sample. And what they put together was good, and we were willing to look at it as a goal, but not as a policy or procedure.
Understood.
So, again, I don't know who made the decision to take it down and say that it's no longer a goal,
That
but
was
that should
4
not have
years
occurred.
ago.
I'll take a note. I'll take a
But just
note.
because a board 4 years ago made a decision, unless this
But
board
we haven't even
reverses that decision,
we haven't even
it
started
still
this yet,
stands.
though. We haven't even attempted to start this process. And we're already being, we're being perceived as, well, you're not allowing us to be part of it. We never, I
Well,
never gave
again, I
that
mean,
impression to anyone,
But
I
again, the
hope.
perception. We had a goal. It was on the website.
That was in
The
2013,
But
right?
still, a board that made a vote in,
Didn't follow through with it, whoever was
1910,
on that board at the time.
that vote still stands unless another board voted to
Changes the
rescind
vote.
it. Which this
Did
board
not.
of 2017
Has
has
not
never
yet.
voted to get rid of that
Okay.
goal.
I have a note. I will check with, I'll check with Holly tomorrow. And we'll, figure that out, but I
So,
I
again,
think we're all on the same page.
And I agree, yes, moving forward with what Collins is putting together, I think they're gonna give us a good product,
Mhm.
and we should look at it, but we shouldn't ignore what we have either.
No, absolutely not.
Yep.
Absolutely not. And that's not the intention. All right. Thank you, Will.
Excuse me.
I just want to bring it up so that you have it for discussion.
Yep, no, thank you. Scholarship Committee guidelines.
Oh, sorry, Deb.
Was that,
I'm like so used to, it's okay.
what's that?
Was the chairman of the committee here?
Yeah, is Mr. Brooks here?
No, actually, I called him and he
Okay.
said that he didn't know he was supposed to come, but I just had a few questions for him. And he said that he thought that we should discuss what was here, and then it looks like you may have, he said you may have taken something off the website, because it's on your letterhead, and that we should discuss that, and then put something together, and to send it to him, and he would discuss that with the
Right.
scholarship committee, because he felt like we would probably talk about some change. It's old, and it's just been passed down.
Yeah, this here is,
This is, he said he wrote a letter
He
to
did,
us.
yep.
And then the other stuff he felt that, he thought you found on the website,
well, some of it, I mean, again, we're not gonna reinvent the wheel, some of the stuff, but,
Right,
some of the stuff I got from the school, because the school had guidelines as well that they followed as far as the application process. But the charge, there's no charge to the scholarship committee. There's no process of how they, formulate themselves. And that's what I was looking at to start. I was trying to, again, I'm just trying to make the wheel here go a little faster.
so he wasn't sure when I was like trying to read to him these things, where you got that from. I just said, oh, it's on the Office of Veterans Services letter.
Yeah, that's,
head. So I didn't
That's wrong.
know it. I thought you guys had sat down, but he
I
just
did
said he
sit,
didn't know.
no, I did sit down,
Yeah.
Mr. Brooks, in my office, and we went through some of, what he was discussing as far as, his committee, his requirements for the scholarship committee. He took pen and ink, as you all have, as far as, the award requirements. So I talked to the school about how would they, there's gotta be something formulated in writing that the student, the senior has to follow in order to achieve this scholarship. The other issue that I felt was concerning was the fact that it's a $4,000 scholarship, and everybody that applies for the scholarship gets it. So they break it all down, and all the kids that got it this year was around $300, which quite frankly is not gonna even buy a book in college today. So it did make any sense. So I said to him, well, you need to have it more structured in a way where, the GPA is involved. You have to have, certain criteria in order to achieve, that type of benefit or that type of scholarship. And that's basically and again, this is just me putting things on paper to see, hopefully, see what sticks. And obviously, changes have to take place. Just like it's, I think it's $4,000. I said, well, geez, I mean, it's been that way for how long? So I went back. Then I went back, I'm like, well, then there was an issue, and I'm like, well, how much money is not there? Then how much is this, and how much is that, and how come it's only $4,000? And I said, well, because even with two people, $4,000, that's only $2,000 apiece. That might buy their books for the semester. I said, why can't we just somehow bring it to town floor and see if we can raise that to, say, $6,000, then each candidate would get $3,000, which would actually at least take them into the second semester as far as book costs and stuff. But again, I'm just throwing things out there for discussion. But I tried to help out Mr. Brooks as much as I could. Basically, what I followed his, line as far as general responsibilities of the chairman, committee members, general guidelines, committee rotations, license renewals, that's something else.
So I belong to a scholarship committee through the Realtor organization, and I have for several years. And we have guidelines too, and each school knows, we hope that they know. I mean, there's been a couple of years where it seemed like, ours is Worcester County, or like, the surrounding Fitchburg here in Templeton, and all of that. Sometimes it seems like there are schools who don't even either know about it, or they're not applying, or I think when I read through this, there's some typos, and there's some, so we only have a limited amount of money, and we give out 4 scholarships. They're $1,000 each, and one that we're not allowed to review is specifically for a child of a Realtor who is moving on to college. They, I think all the criteria about the GPA and we have all that as well. We look at need, we look at their essay, everything has to follow, like you said, a certain guideline. It was for a while that Templeton had lowered the amount of money that the town pitches in. So I think it was $2,500, and now we've gotten it up to $4,000. So we have to look at that as part of the budget. You can have 2 people, you can have 3 people, I agree, if you're gonna split it out between 10 people, I think that when students apply for scholarships, they should be looking out there everywhere, not just the Templeton Arts and Crafts Festival gives out $50 scholarships, and lots of people can apply, but when you apply for something like this, it should be a more significant amount of money, and you should be able to reach what the goals are in here. And if you're just only applying for 1 or 2, then that's kind of the way it goes. We look at how much financial aid is being awarded. We have a point sheet that says, did they do each part of the process, and this is for the student must reside in Templeton, and they can go to Monty Tech. They awarded one to someone in Quabbin. But then I thought,
Well, if that's the case, then number 2, we'd have to change the wording.
yeah, the wording was kind of strange, and that's what I
The
called
applicant
John
must
about
be a
because you
graduating
had.
senior from an accredited
Yeah, it
high
just is
school
not
from
worded
Templeton.
correctly.
So it doesn't allow any other
Right.
students in the town.
So
If we
maybe
put just
it's
Templeton.
possible, like what I was saying, that some schools don't even say, oh, did you know that the town of Templeton has a scholarship?
Yeah,
It's
they
it's
don't
up to that
advertise it.
school to have all that information in their guidance office. So,
Which they've done for this particular one.
I mean, personally, when there should be, whatever the school has for an application, whatever, should be part of all this package. Not just, So, I mean, I thought we were just kind of, and I think my only, what is the, I had just had a couple of questions on the actual committee guidelines. It says that the chairman will mail checks and letters to appropriate applicants. Checks should come from the town. So, I mean, if there's a letter to go with it, then that should be supplied to here and already be signed off on, and the check would be mailed out from here. We do not through
Now,
the.
does the check go to the, again, I asked some of the question, I didn't
No,
know
I
if the
think they
check
should
went
be
to the,
mailed from
if it went to
here.
the student, does it go to the student or the
No,
college?
it's supposed to go.
To the college?
Yeah, it either has to be,
No, it
so,
goes to the student, right?
not to my, yes, Kelly?
Can
I just, are you gonna provide clarification on
Yes,
that?
can I answer that? I know you're in
Yes.
a workshop, so.
Yep, it goes to the student, correct?
Yes, because the way they do it is, yes, they give the scholarship, but they do not pay them up front.
Right,
They
that's
are
what I was
paid
gonna say.
after the
Yeah,
fact,
they have to
after
finish a
they-
semester.
Right,
already
and they
in here.
provide the transcript.
Already says they have to finish their first semester before they get their check, it already says it.
Yeah, that's on the, this town of Templeton scholarship, not this,
On this part, or,
On the front,
on the,
right?
not the guidelines, the other one, the Templeton.
it's on the letter
The
thing?
scholarship, no, on this,
Okay, I didn't see that.
it's on the
This-
bottom.
Number 7.
Number 7. The scholarship may payable to the student upon verification of
Of
enrollment.
enrollment, they have to finish a semester, and I can enroll anywhere and not finish going there, but they have to finish a semester in order to get a check.
Okay,
So it's not necessarily gonna pay for their books, but it will go toward,
But the checks, being a recent graduate, the checks don't go to the student, the checks, so you can have the check yourself, but you can't cash it, I forget what the college
No,
savings.
they
Well, it goes,
can
no,
go-
it goes to the
That
student.
goes directly to
But they
the
have to
student.
finish the semester, that's why
They
they do
They
provide-
that.
would have already had to buy their books at the beginning
Right.
of the semester.
Yeah, but the way Worcester State did it is it would all get dispersed to your funds. And they would disperse it, if you, like a book voucher or something, so it was all school
Oh, but that's
expenses.
right through the school?
Yeah, so you
Yeah, that's
can't,
not
I
the same.
couldn't pull out $1,000 and go buy a, new
Right.
car with it.
Right.
It was all done through the school, and they would disperse the funds on a need
Yeah, this
basis
can't
with,
be done
with
that
book
way.
vouchers
Why?
and things like that.
Because it comes through the town, so, I mean, we do the same thing through the
So can't the
Realtor, it's
town
not
pay-
through a school, it's through the town. So the Realtor
Well, mine was given
organization
through
gives it to the student
Oh.
after they finish a semester.
Same
So
with
after the student
scholarships.
finishes the semester,
Then they
and
come
they're
with their
signed in
transcript.
for semester number 2 at Worcester State College, why can't the town of Templeton write a check to Worcester State College? Scholarship fund is paying such an amount to this student that now is a student at Worcester State College. Why wouldn't that go
I think
into
we
their
would need a
accounting?
better understanding of the scholarship funds and how those operate to really make these decisions.
Yeah, there's never been, can I answer that?
Yes.
To my knowledge, there has never been any more requiring other than one semester. So regardless if they do a second semester or not, they have been given the scholarship. They only have to provide documentation for one completed semester, provide us the transcript, and then we send them the check. That's the way it's been done since I've been here.
Well, I'm gonna try to head honcho this one for Mr. Brooks. I'll sit with Mr. Brooks in the school. So if there's any like,
Send you some changes. and
changes,
some-
corrections, additions,
I thought we were just gonna discuss
that's what we're here for. We wanna make sure that, again, I listen to Mr. Brooks, I read his thing, and I'm trying to, piece this together, cause
Well, he
literally.
said that he would welcome some clear-cut guidelines, and, he had, that we could bring back to him, and
Right.
then he would discuss it
Because he's
with
literally
the
has
scholarship
nothing.
committee.
He has nothing.
I would make some recommendations to look at the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship.
Yep.
That's one of the biggest Massachusetts scholarships out there. It's for MCAS. But there's also certain credentials on that which outlines, you need to have certain GPA, what it's
Right.
used for, what it can be done.
I think, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
Kim, I think all scholarships, regardless of the scholarship, they all have criteria that
Yeah.
you have to meet. And my concern is, you know, the only criteria that the Templeton Scholarship Fund had was you had to live in Templeton.
No, not even that.
And,
You
well,
had to go to Narragansett Regional High School,
that's not,
period.
No, I did ask him that, and he said just have to be
Yep.
a student in town, and they have
town
awarded
resident, high school
scholarships
graduate.
to other schools, for this
Yep, that's what he has
student
right here too as well.
who's at like Quabbin and,
Money Tech.
because of school choice,
Right.
they have to do that.
Okay,
So I would make the recommendation to look at some of these scholarships, and this is to Mr. Brooks, that some of these, like the John Abigail Adams Scholarship, I mean, I think even the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, they all have scholarship
They do.
formats.
yep,
I would steer towards more of the Massachusetts grants and more of the federal grants that they offer, the scholarships.
yeah, that's where I got this,
Yeah. Based
Kinda like
off
piecemeal
that,
from.
as far as the guidelines go, but I would also suggest him to reach out to some of the financial aid departments and see how they handle scholarship funds, if they get directly processed there or not. I mean, those guys, right now, they're not doing much anyway, so you could probably give them a call up and have a 4-hour conversation with him, and they would enjoy it, cause there's nothing going on, so.
right, well, I think,
I would give them a call and find out exactly how they process that.
yeah, Mr. Brooks was pretty adamant that the check, once the student completes the first semester, that the check goes directly to the student, where the student would have to check in, verify with some type of documentation that they completed their first
But I
semester.
think that, so, as working in a tax office, there is, when I was in my undergrad, that'd be college expenses. And if you were to directly receive those, they would be taxable. But since you're using them for college expenses, like through, with Worcester State, when you use your book vouchers, those are untaxed. So you already get the tax break, you can't use them for a receipt or anything like that. Now, I think when you give a student, a scholarship, that becomes taxable income. So if it's not directly given to you, it's untaxable. So that's why I'm very hesitant to believe that they just cut a check for someone for $10,000 or X amount, and because that would be considered
Well,
taxable
this
income.
is just small time
So over 250,
scholarship.
so it's
It
$250.
doesn't matter the amount of funds. The federal government and the
Could
state government would also.
Kelly's trying to.
Yeah, Kelly, go ahead.
I understand what you're saying, but when we're issuing scholarships, this is a check for like $200.
No, these are gonna be larger.
I understand the value amounts, but I'm saying that if a student is receiving $10,000 worth of scholarships, whether
Oh,
it's $200
altogether.
from Templeton,
No.
$500 from wherever,
They have
this
to pay
adds up,
tax
and
on that.
it,
This is true.
so that's what I'm saying. I'm sure there is something to curb that along the lines, because it shouldn't be on the entity that's giving the check, it should be on the individual receiving the checks.
Right, but then that's their responsibility. It shouldn't be built into how we give a scholarship.
But I think that's why it's done, well, mine were
Right.
done through financial aid department.
Right, and I mean, they're so small amounts here. Our concern has always been that they actually went to school.
Mhm.
Did you actually go to school? Yes, you did. Here's my transcript. And we give you the scholarship, because it's such minimal amount.
Mhm.
If we were issuing huge amounts, then yes.
Well, that's
we would
changing,
need
Kelly.
to spend,
That's what I mean.
That's changing. We're trying to adapt this so it's, instead of 15 students getting $200,
Mm-hmm.
2 students will get $2,000 apiece for their educational benefit to go on to college
Right.
after the fact of their first semester.
Right.
So,
And in that case, we would send them a 1099. So
That's-
they would have to use that on their taxes.
And that would solve my issue.
Would it be difficult, though, for them to show that they are enrolled and they are in a certain, any whatever college, and would it be allowed to cut that check directly to the college?
Yes.
And they could
Yeah,
deliver it
absolutely.
there, and then maybe
That's
we
what
could
I-
avoid?
yeah.
and there's no
That's what I
tax.
But
just
I
Tax
didn't
deferred.
know that there were
Then you
tax
avoid the
implications.
person getting
Yeah,
taxed.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
it's
You
over
And
verify
you
that
know
they
that
could use it
you're
for college
verifying that
expenses.
they're actually using the cash
And I
for
mean,
college expense.
Even in the
Yeah, so we just-
scholarship charter or whatever, you can specify what it's for. I mean, instead of saying that it's for, college, whatever, it could be for tuition, it could be for books, it could be various college expenses, whatever. It depends on how specific you wanna get with it, but if you donate it to their college fund or with Worcester State, we
Right.
had the financial aid funds.
Right.
They would just get deposited in there and I could use them as an as-need basis.
Understood,
And then they would cut you a check at the end if you had anything left over.
which that makes sense, and it keeps everybody out of trouble.
And I think even though it's not really related to the policy, I do think we still need to look at that Masonic fund, which I believe was set up to do, scholarships. And see if there's.
Yeah, the Masons.
Yeah, to see if, can we, while we're putting this money in, through, from the taxation, from the budget, if there's funds available in that fund that we could use to also supplement the scholarships so that we don't either have to use as much from taxation or that we can, you know, give a bigger amount, then I think we should certainly look at that. And
We have to find out what the Masonic Fund's all about and what charter that they have and what, you know, I mean, to.
Kelly,
Yes,
go ahead.
Kelly?
There's only like $3,500 in there. It's not a huge amount of money.
So it would be like a one-time,
Maybe two,
two-time?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it's not
so
a
it's
huge
not an
amount of money.
ongoing thing?
No, I mean, we got the, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
we
was
got the
conditioned as a
money and-
gift?
I don't know.
I don't even know if we could
Yeah.
use
Kelly
that.
would have to be able to,
It was conditioned as a gift?
Yeah.
It depends upon the condition of the gift.
I got you.
So Kelly would have to brief you, if this was left to you 30 years ago and you were able to spend the interest, then that's all you can do. If it was left to you with no restriction other than it be for scholarships for students from Templeton attending fill in the blank, vocational schools, technical schools.
Understood.
Colleges and
Okay.
universities.
Right.
So you certainly could do that, but you would have to pay attention to any strings that may have come
With that.
when the cash was sent to you.
All right. Do you wanna have this with me?
Yeah, I'll-
We
I'll-
can
I'll
work on
definitely
this
follow.
together, then we can represent it back to Mr. Brooks, and then hopefully bring it back to the Board of Selectmen, if that's agreeable.
I'll go back and
it's good.
Thanks, Cam.
Yep.
And I'll change the header tomorrow. I didn't even realize it was the
I
veterans
just,
header.
I just
I didn't
thought like it
realize.
was, I didn't know what to think, so I'm like, okay.
I did a lot of cutting and pasting, as you can tell. As you can tell.
exactly.
Obviously, cable license renewal. That's you, Steve.
Yes, sir. Where would you like me?
Right here is fine. So we do this real quick.
Yep. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time. So I am pleased to finally present you with a completed cable license renewal agreement with Comcast. We've been working on this since 2015. And it's been a long road, but it is a good license, I believe. It's a better license than a lot of the towns around here have. The negotiations were hard at times, but I think we got about what we can get out of it. And that's a good thing, and both sides had to bend a little at the end, which is also a sign of good negotiations. And I can run down a list of bullet points with you. It does have an effective date of June 12th on it, so we're hoping that we can get on the agenda for the next meeting for possible approval, and a representative from Comcast would be here. In the meantime, if any of you have any questions, if you want to direct them to me, and then I can direct them to the Comcast representative and our legal counsel, our special cable counsel who helped prepare this, we can get those taken care of. So, just the highlights of this, it's a 10-year term, it runs through June 11th, 2027. The maximum you can do is a 10-year term. I have never seen one less than that because nobody wants to go through this more often.
Really that difficult?
Pardon me?
Was it really that difficult to
Yeah,
negotiate?
there are only so many things you can negotiate, but it is a trip into bizarro land.
Bizarre.
I say that as an understatement. And, you know, Comcast is an 800-pound gorilla, and they do what they want to do, and it's hard to get them to do what you want to do. But we've had victories against them through the years, and we've won some battles here against them as well. So, notes in the contract, when you see plant, it means the aerial cable lines. That's their plant in town. So when they call the cable plant, or their underground cable lines. The contract only covers cable TV service. Internet services are not covered by this. And this is by law. The reason you need a cable contract is they have to have the pole attachments. So they have to do a contract with the town. For instance, DirecTV and satellite companies don't need contracts because of that. So, there are side letters with this. There's a standard senior discount. It's like $2 off basic service. They will not give any more. You just can't get that out of them. So they put that in the side letter. There's a side letter for video return lines, which give us the broadcasting locations. That's what we've been haggling over for the last 3 months. John was on one of those calls. We won some minor battles there because, number one, they did not want to give us the right to use third parties to construct these lines. And we want that so Comcast would keep its costs down. And we were told by other parties they would not do it more than once, and we got 2 out of them. So there's a deadline of 2022 for that, but I think we can deal with that. And we may never use that, especially if the town builds out fiber. So that's kind of a big
Right.
what if. There's also a side letter for the school to channel or filter channels out if they wanted to do multi-channel things within the school. But the cable committee voted on Thursday to approve this, but without that letter because we feel that it's impractical now and you can do closed circuit TV without that. The reason it was put in was it was in the last contract. They never used it. The tech director there, Mike Wakefield, I talked to him about it. He said, put it in if you want. I'm never gonna use it. And
Right.
we didn't pay much attention to it, and we took another look at it last week, and we said, you know what? It doesn't make sense, and there
So
may be
this is
problems.
not gonna be in there?
We're recommending to you that we take it out.
Okay.
And I will talk to Mike Wakefield at the school about that and make sure he's okay with it. I'm sure he is. The area served, these are basic things in the contract. Density requirements, 20 houses per aerial mile, 35 per underground. It's the same as the previous. Residences get drops up to 150 feet from the street at a standard installation rate, and then beyond that, costs more. And free drops in monthly TV service to municipal buildings and schools. There's an appendix at the end of the contract in Exhibit 3.5 with the list of all the municipal buildings. I had Holly check them. She said we didn't miss any. All the schools are there. Templeton Center would transfer to the new school, and I'm pretty sure we have all the municipal. We're not gonna do the wellheads or.
Our town halls will be covered, so we can put maybe some monitors in the hallway
Yeah,
potentially.
and actually virtually all the buildings, I believe, already have drops. I mean,
Okay.
you have a drop here because you have the internet.
Right.
So we know that the cable service is there. Last contract, I think surprisingly, the library didn't have a drop. That's since all taken care of.
Okay.
So I don't think there are any new buildings that need that.
Great.
And what would happen to Baldwinville School?
That's a good question. We would
I
just,
mean, right
we
now,
would,
they're still there, but what, would it
we would
be
just.
something that remains there depending on
Yeah,
what happens with
if
that
somebody buys
building?
that for condos or something, there
I
would
mean-
be a cable drop there and they could pay
But it's not
Comcast to
something
use
that
it.
we would, okay.
Yeah, and it's no big deal for us to abandon
Oh,
a
okay.
standard cable installation.
Okay.
The video return lines would be a different story, right?
Right.
Those are costly. The channels, we will still have our cable channel 8 and the Gardner channel on channel 9. We have an option in the 3rd year to add another channel. The contract actually says years 2 through 5, but we have to give them a year's notice because they can't do anything in 12 months, apparently. So,
Okay.
and that may be a chance, I'm not gonna promise this, but it may be down the line if sentiment picks up to make Comcast make HD channels available to public channels, we may be able to fight for that. We record in HD,
Right.
and we have to put it in standard definition on the TV channel, because that's all they'll give you
It's, okay.
right now, so. But there's an option there, or an opportunity potentially for us to fight for an HD channel if Steam picks up on that. The broadcast locations right now are at the high school and it's not the Kiva, it's the technology room next to the library, is the actual hub site for the town. We have the current station location at 3 Elm Street. And the video return line letter specifies that we can use third parties for 2 more of these if we need, up to 2022. And
Great.
that was a big fight,
Wow.
but.
Good deal.
And then the PEG TV funding, which you negotiate the funding for the operation and maintenance of your TV channel. With this contract, we got it raised from 2% of gross annual revenues in town to, and these are just TV revenues, to 4.25%. Now, that will be paid in quarterly payments each year. Right now, we get twice annual payments. And it should result in an annual operating budget between $100,000 and $120,000.
Great.
I give you
Good
a
job.
wide range because we won't know until we get the first checks. Right now, we're actually paying the license fee that comes to the town separately, 50 cents, and I think the state gets 80 cents, comes to about $3,000 a year. We pay that. They take it out of the money that should come to the TV station, and then they pay your license fee with it. So we got that changed in this license, so that's another $3,000. And that also includes local home shopping and local advertising. You know, if the Kitchen Garden runs a
Right.
TV ad, that goes in there.
Great.
They will also pay $60,000 in capital funding for equipment. We should talk at some time about having a separate capital account, because that cannot be used for operational. That can only be used, Kelly's not here, but we can go over that later, or set 60,000 aside that can only be used for capital. And the funds can only be used for public access, the PEG channel, and cable-related expenses. The cable provider does have the right to pass through those costs to subscribers and franchise fees. And then we go into the license fee and the VRL lines, which I can explain more if you wish, and all the standard stuff like pole attachments, construction, performance bonds, severability, indemnification, all that wonderful boilerplate stuff that
Great.
lawyers love.
So, if you can, I'm sorry, so with the VRL lines there, can construct 2 new fiber optic VRL lines with third parties and at own expense. So that says that we could build our own fiber optic lines if we need to, is that what it's saying?
Yeah, so whenever you have a studio or a station location that you broadcast from, for instance, the high school's already set up for that. When we moved into 3 Elm Street, we had to pay Comcast $16,000 to run 2,000 feet of fiber from their fiber node in Baldwinville to that station. And that has to be a dedicated line.
Okay.
It can only be used to send video to their head end in Gardner.
Okay.
So that's why those lines are expensive. And let's say this came about because we said we may abandon that building at some time. And guess what? Emergency response is next door. That might be a good place to put our line. We would actually add a line, even if it's 10 feet to the pole, right there. And, you know, Comcast may charge us to pull that whole line back, whereas another fiber optic installer may say, yeah, I can do that for half the price. Right? So we may be able to use it for there, or if we find a studio location, you know, I don't know where, anywhere, right? And we need to run fiber to wherever their node is, and that needs to be a dedicated line.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So, and they're protective of that because they don't want things attached to that line that are gonna be used for other things.
I'm sure
They
it's
want
high
it to be used
speed
for
at that point
broadcast.
if it's a single line.
Right.
Okay.
Excellent.
So it's complicated, I know, but
No, I'm glad, great work.
it's there.
No, good work.
It's a relief that you finally got there, Steve.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll be
it's like-
relieved
Woo!
after it's done.
It's been almost 2 years that you've been
Yes,
negotiating
it's
with
always
them.
an ordeal, and it's different. This is the second time.
I'm glad it's done. You don't need anything from us?
No, just if you have any questions this week, you know, if you're looking it over, and I've been through the contract, I can't tell you how many times, because there've been so many different versions, and I've already, you can run like a comparison and
Black line.
track changes in
Yeah.
Word, and we have so many different versions with all the track changes in it, but we say, okay, here's your version on June, or, May 18th, I think was the last version, I can compare it to
Okay.
March 17th, what he sent, and see if, if they slipped in any changes. But I've been through it, and I'll go through it again this
No
week
fast
to make
ones
sure
with polls.
everything's there.
Awesome.
Yes.
So we
Thank
have
you
to
so
make
much.
sure that this is on the agenda for next week, so that, because we need to vote
Yes,
this
if
and sign the
if you
contract.
will,
Yeah.
if you want to address it, then I think
Yeah,
it's
we
best
should.
while it's fresh in your mind, and get it done, and then we can get on to other business.
All right,
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Check policy? Electronic and check policy?
Sure.
Kelly, Kelly, you wanna come up here, please?
And just a side note on the Masonic fund, I just went to look at the trust fund. It was established in 1843.
Yep.
And I can hardly read the document, so I'm not sure how we'll figure out what the strings that were attached.
Why don't you come with me? 'Cause I've got the copy of the policy. So this comes about because I had a conversation with a department in which I came to learn that a check that had not cleared, had been returned to NSF, had actually been sitting in the department for nigh on to 4 weeks. And as I talked with some other departments, I came to learn that they all had different means of chasing down NSF payments. So Kelly put together a team, Carol Lee, Police Chief Bennett, who
yeah.
else was?
It was Luann and Pam from the highway, and then Carol Harris.
Carol Harris.
Lori from the building department.
To take a first cut at it. They did that. I made a few changes to it. I can see as I look at it now that there may be some other modest changes. But this would be a non-sufficient funds policy, both for return checks and returned electronic payments, payments that aren't honored. So we do take payments for real estate tax, excise, motor vehicles.
Yeah,
And
sewer now takes them.
Sewer now takes them and some others. And the whole point of this is to put everyone on the same policy, on the same timelines, with a clear end collection process. So the authority, and I previously gave you Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 57A, which spoke to the amounts of monies. It's $25 or 1% of the total bill. This basically says, no, we're just gonna be $25 across the board for the sake of simplicity. So if your check is $2,587 for your real estate bill, we're not gonna charge you $25.87. Everything's gonna be $25 across the board. And secondly, that change in statute spoke to electronics, because the original statute went back, I think, into the 30s and 40s, when basically you gave somebody cash or a paper check. So the Municipal Modernization Act spoke to the advanced use of debit cards, credit cards, electronic EFTs, electronic funds transfers. The purpose, to adopt a uniform method for the pursuit of payments, returned to the town for lack of sufficient funds. I see that should probably had, or other reasons, added to it, because that would then be reflective of Section 5A, where you see it speaks to unprocessed for insufficient funds, or any other reason. They'd close the account. That's certainly insufficient funds, but there can be other reasons, particularly with electronic transactions. So the town administrator would have the overarching responsibility, though it really does fall primarily upon the treasurer collector. There's no real definitions needed for this. This is trying to establish a flow, a pattern, so that all policies are done in the same manner. There's really no terms here that we thought needed definition. This policy would apply to all checks and electronic transactions returned to the town. So that would be town clerk, treasurer collector, building, sewer, basically everybody. I'm not gonna get into your unique structure with light and water. When I talk about the town, I'm talking about
Gotcha.
this side of the house. Each department must post a sign in their offices notifying customers about the flat $25 processing fee. If you go into different offices, there are offices, and that's not posted in many of the offices. It wasn't posted in one we went down to.
Yes, it was not.
Was it there?
No.
This was a recommendation, item C. This one, I'd like to circle back to it once we've walked through it. This was a recommendation from the police chief. Just the more information he had, he felt more comfortable, he'd have a better chance of pursuing. And so in this case, many people go ahead and print their telephone numbers on their checks, but he's asked that staff collect telephone numbers, if it's not printed on the check, and note the paying party's driver license number. If we get a returned electronic transaction or check, first we send the offender first class certified mail, return receipt requested, and we give them a period of time in which to do it, and that repayment must be in the form of a bank check or a money order. If you bounce the check, you don't get to bring a second paper check on your personal account in. You need to make it good with a bank check or money order. And in the case, in one case in which we had it bounced, the person had, so let me come to the next piece. The letter shall inform the paying party of their right to appeal this processing fee if they demonstrate the satisfaction of the treasurer collector, it says to the town, but in this case, whoever is doing it. That they made their payment in good faith and with reasonable cause to believe that it would be processed by their depository. I always got paid on Fridays by direct deposit. When I handed you the check on Monday, I don't go in and check to make sure, and my employer screwed up. And if they can provide evidence that that in fact happened, the treasurer collector might say, aha, yep, had it happen here with somebody's direct deposit check, something went wrong. They can waive it. That is part of the legislation now, also. Obviously, if they give you the check on Thursday because they think by Monday they'll have been able to cover it and you won't have made it to the bank till Monday, that's probably not a good reason to waive their $25 fee. If the offender fails to respond within the time limit, then the treasurer collector, the town clerk, whoever the collecting entity is, will put a package together and it will go to the police department, who will process the application for complaint to the district court. A little bit harsh, perhaps, but you either want to collect them or you don't. And you can strike that. I mean, I've said it before, we propose, you dispose. The big thing, whatever you do here, is that every department, that there's a process that is specific, timeline controlled, and has an end result, it lands someplace. And it's the police department that has the most familiarity with making out those applications for complaint. They do it I'd like to think they don't do it every day, but they certainly do it more than anybody else in town does it. So that's the process that we went through. Before we get into it, Kelly, you want to add anything to how this was developed, or?
No, I know there was questions about taking the, driver's license numbers and things. But generally, if you go to any place now and you write a check, they take that. A lot of people even have it printed on their check. So I know that there was questions about that, but that's something I think we really need to consider, that we would get their phone number and their license number. Don't necessarily need all their date of birth and all that stuff, but at least there would be some way to track that license number gives us, because you can give us any kind of number for a phone number, it doesn't change the digits or something and it's not gonna connect to them, but if we physically see their license and we write that down, that's not something that, can be changed.
And I know that, may not feel good, You know, if you don't, the only thing I would say is that, you know, we do want to get a policy in place. If there's parts of it that you're not comfortable with, and they don't undercut the basic approach of making sure we have a specific policy that everyone knows, that's timeline-driven, with an end responsible entity for how to collect, follow through. You can always, if you want,
Wouldn't we
then
happen to
tweak
have their
that in the
information on hand? So if somebody's coming in to pay their real estate tax bill, wouldn't we already have their information on hand if they're coming to submit and pay for that?
Technically, yes, but like, for an example, today I have 2 refunds that we had sent back, that came back, they don't, that's not their address. So it's like, now we have these refunds that we need to give to these people, but we don't have, you know, so just because they're in the tax system, doesn't mean that we have good information.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that would be nice.
I was doing some of my sift and sort this weekend and at the house, and I pulled out some checks to my wife, and I looked at this, and she says, "You haven't lived at 437 Walnut Street in 18 years," you know? And yet I could write that check and hand it in.
With the same bank, yeah.
And then if you had a problem with another address, so, again, this is, you need to be comfortable, because I do know it's, every time you change something like this, I saw the twinge down at the end of the table, you know, it's that small town feel, it's that, you know, well, we're becoming big city-ish, do we really have to do that? So you need to be comfortable, and if there's, some of these things are things you aren't comfortable with, well, then we'll just deal with it, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll report back to you in a year. But like I said, the most important thing is when I found out that that check had bounced and had been sitting around for about 4 weeks, I thought they were gonna have to scrape me off the ceiling. It is important that the departments have a clear, that it's uniform, that it's timeline-driven, and that there's an end process.
No, I think this is all very good. Section F just kinda, the last part where they're filing a complaint to the district court for fraudulent checks, that's really the only one that seems just really above and beyond.
Every bank does it.
Well, what's the end result? I mean,
It's it's
Don't-
larceny.
Well, my question
To write
would have
bad
been
checks.
for, don't we have a debt collection, like, what is it?
Debt management company?
No, like Jeffrey and Jeffries, I think is the.
Oh, they do, yeah.
Taxes.
Taxes.
Okay.
They'll chase delinquent taxes.
But
Right,
not,
they don't
not
do
like,
that.
okay.
I mean, if you want to, so somebody comes in and they give you a check.
Mhm.
You know, the sign has been there, it's $25. Then you send them a letter and you say, okay, pay up. Oh, and P.S., if you think this thing bounced in error, you know, and you've got a good explanation, you can appeal the fee. And then they still do absolutely nothing. To leave that just sit there and wait until it goes delinquent a year later, and then hand it to the delinquent tax collector, I'm not sure we're keeping good faith with everybody who's paid on time.
I think the only thing I'm a little uncomfortable with, because I agree that so many banks do F. I mean, they do. They're just gonna tell you they're gonna take you to court. We want our money back, whatever. Is the license piece.
Me too.
I think it's an inconvenience
Okay.
for our area because of our elderly.
Yeah.
Some may not even have a license on them. They
True.
got a ride from their
This is
son or
true.
their daughter, they're in paying with a check, and now you're gonna say, not only do I want your phone number, I also want your license. What if they don't have a license anymore?
So what do you
What if
think
they're
about-
uncomfortable telling you that? I just feel like it's
So
a
what do you
little
think about the
uncomfortable.
phone number?
Phone number I'm fine with, cause again,
Well,
So when you read online about identity theft, now, first of all, hundreds of people send in their checks via the mail. You're not collecting their license number, you're not collecting their
Right.
phone number, you're not doing any of that. So if we're trying to encourage people to do that and not come in here, that might be one thing, but a lot of people like to come. But it says, Be careful what personal information you put on your check. Use your work phone, not your home phone. Use a P.O. box, not a street address. Do not write your license number on there, and never your social security number. So when you have your address, your account number, your phone number, and it goes through an electronic system, or we're putting people at risk.
So I'm gonna suggest, if this is
Or they
agreeable
need
to the
just
board.
come with the times and not use
The police will
checks.
have to do their homework.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I've never written one of those.
I'm gonna go with you on that.
Well, I think, I mean, just as if we get to the point where we're accepting debit cards in the tax collector, in
Amen.
the collector's office.
Amen.
And they can just run them, a lot of this check stuff's gonna go away.
It's
Cause
gonna
I
go
can't
away.
tell you how many people come in and say, can you take my debit card? Well, no.
Yeah.
You have to pay online or blah, so then they'll rip out their checkbook and write a check. But if we can do it, you know,
If folks
that
are
needs to
agreeable.
be
to the
automated, yeah.
Right, if folks are agreeable to the telephone number in item C, when accepting a check in the office, comma, the staff are to obtain a telephone number if it is not printed on the check, period.
And that's fine.
Yep.
Most of the time.
Use
it's
your
already
work
on
phone
the
number.
check.
Don't use your home. I can't encourage that at all. So I can't. I deal with it every day. I have to protect so much information, checks, contracts, no social security numbers. I can't agree with that. So my
I
vote would
can't
have to be
agree
no.
with having a check sitting here for 4 weeks, going unnoticed either.
I
I'm sorry,
agree
can't
with that,
agree
but
with
that's
that.
different. I mean, if we're not processing that kind of stuff in a timely manner, we should not punish the person, you know, by, again, I'm really concerned about identity theft, and it is our job to not do that. So if there's some other way that you can collect some information and not have it on the check, or write it on the bill that you, I don't know,
Well, in
but it
case the
can't
board
be
is
on the.
split, I'm wondering if we can split the two issues apart so that the board can give us a direction. I'm sensing a
You wanna
consensus.
take a roll call on it?
It doesn't need to be a roll call, but just, you know, if we split it apart, then the board can give me a nod of, yep, strike that part about the driver's license, and then we can just, you know, get a sense of direction on the telephone number. I would just suggest that.
Well, the question I'd like to ask is, how reasonable or how soon do we think that, one, we could take debit cards in the treasurer collector's office, or have the machine where you put a check in it, it zips through and
Right,
does that
exactly.
electronic thing?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Fidelity's-
is that a year away, or is that 5 years away?
Well, I'll let Kelly speak to the debit card. I will tell you that the check scanning is a cost, and we'd have to get that estimated, and based upon your amount of collections, it's probably not worth the cost. It's at least a year. Now, the chairman and I, I'll send y'all an update in the coming administrator's report. I did go down and talk with the sewer department. And they indicated that they would have a member of their board work with a small group of us on the viability of bringing the collection of their bills into town hall. I don't want to say in-house, into town hall. And so that would substantially increase your processing system. But we should also look, so there's different ways we can also look at lockbox. But I'd say on that front, you're at least a year away, Doug, to know if it makes any sense.
I guess I want to know how
Debit.
many bad checks we have compared to the number of tax bills that go out. Are we talking 50? Are we talking 20? Are we talking 100 bad checks? Like, how much are we talking?
Across the organization, do you know?
I would say probably of every department
Excepting sewer.
except sewer, I would say probably a 30 a year.
30 a year for the whole organization?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's frankly, it's not that many. The problem is, it's the pursuit of them when they just sit there
Right.
and they don't deal with them.
Okay, so have we turned anything over to our police department to say, can you,
No.
okay, but, so if we don't know, we're assuming that they wouldn't be able to use their amazing sleuthing abilities for what we pay them for to find these people, and I just find that
policy-
really hard to
Well,
believe.
there's no policy to send it to the.
Okay, but
police
if we
department.
had a policy, okay, so that answers my question
Well,
in order to.
the suggestion for these two items came from the police department. to give them what they thought were the tools that they needed. I understand the pushback, and this is board policy. I mean, we're telling you the pluses and the minuses. It's up for you to give us a high sign of, Carter, after the word check, strike the rest of it when you bring it in for final adoption. We've just laid out for you why it was requested.
I have no problem with the license on there.
Yeah, and we had
I'll
discussed
just
too,
state my position.
yeah, we had
about the
discussed
phone
too,
number?
that if they came in through the
No problem.
mail, we're gonna write like an M on the top corner of the check. So if there is a problem and it does get to the police station, they're gonna know, okay, it came in the mail. So there would be no, like, oh, they didn't get the phone number, they didn't get the,
I mean, I personally, I think,
I don't think we should
My
be writing on
opinion
an M on hundreds of checks every day. That's just an
What if-
extra step, Kelly, that just takes,
What if we were to verify it against the license? Would that suit it? If the address matched what was on the license?
yeah, I mean, you look at the license, but you don't necessarily have to
Write
write
it
down
down.
the information.
I think
So
that
you
would be.
verify that, okay, yep, the person that's standing in front of me is this person, this address is the address on the check, if not, ask them why.
For 30 bad checks a year, we're gonna do all of this to our citizens of Templeton? I don't know.
I don't have a problem with striking it, I just need to know
my
what
position
y'all
would be
wanna
to
do.
strike all of C.
See?
C, did I say that, all of,
My suggestion is you divide them, because if you agree on one of them, and you agree on two of them, and you agree on one of them that's different than hers,
So
we'll
I
just
would
keep
say,
going.
I would say to strike the driver's license. I don't like that idea at all. This is a small town, so if you see someone come in with a check, and last year, that same person bounced a check with you, Kelly, I think
Right.
you should have the right to ask that person for their phone number.
yeah, yeah.
That's how I feel about
Well,
it.
the issue wasn't, it's not about somebody cutting fraudulent checks, it's that
Right,
sometimes
they're
we
not.
make mistakes in balancing checkbooks and that the funds aren't there, so when it bounces, we need to be able to follow up with them and get.
Call them up,
uh,
and
Whatever it is,
you're gonna
mail
have
it
the phone
back to
number
them,
on
mail them that letter that we're talking about, so I think it's right that we should have the proper information. But then it gets into alright, we mail them something, we don't get to them, now we have to file it, and that's what the police station wants, is they want that additional
Right, yeah.
license number to follow up on it.
Yeah, I mean, we all,
they can get
the
it.
consensus in the group was, nobody wanted to do that. They didn't wanna do either one. They didn't wanna do the phone number, they didn't wanna do the driver's license, it's the police that requested that. So, I mean, the general consensus of all the town employees was, they didn't wanna do that. They didn't wanna have to, burden the, residents with that, going through that additional step of a process. So that's just something to consider. But the main thing I think that Carter's talking about is we have to get all of the departments uniformly on the same page. Because that's one of the things that I've seen as I've been here, like with just the financial piece of how they're managing their finances, what they're looking at, when they get the budget versus actual, that's supposed to be a double check. We just
manage,
need to
correct?
have everything on the same page,
Right, and again, that would be up to our TA to make sure that that's occurring,
right?
correct?
If I have something to present to people to hold them accountable to,
Right.
I should not be I may create a procedure, I may create some expectation, but I do not set policy for the departments at large. That is the province of this board.
And that was at his direction that we did this.
so Chief Bennett didn't say anything about identity theft? Did we ask him?
Chief Bennett's concentration was, if I get handed this bounced check, what is the information that I think I'm going to want to be best positioned to pursue it?
Well, and his
So-
original response was he wanted social security numbers, which is,
No, no.
no, I thought it was
Can't,
social
no.
security.
That's-
Can't do that
that's-
anymore at
that's-
all.
that's
So
their
can't we
both.
write that information or one piece of it on a different piece of paper and not on someone's check that goes through like the system and we've heard like all this?
So you want a database?
If you don't wanna ask
No,
people
no, 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 no.
their
We're
driver's
not
license.
talking about hundreds of people. How many people come in to pay? It's only people who, if I come in and
more
say,
than-
hi, Lynn, I'm gonna
We're
pay
talking about
my.
mitigating risk. You can't, the point is out of 1,000 checks and 30 of them come back bad. The point is that we need to have the formalized procedure, and we need to have a method to follow up with the bad
We have a
checks.
method, just not writing the phone number and the license. This is a good policy.
So then when the check bounces, right, and we mail it out to whatever the check address was, say it was
Comes
18
back.
Maple Street, and it comes back, now how do we pursue that?
Well, maybe you can just check the license. I think identity theft is really important.
Oh, I'm not, I don't dispute that.
Whatever
but-
you all decide, it would be, that's in there for me, my vote would be no to the whole policy. So I'm asking, can
so
we
no
ask
no
the
for-
chief, no, because it's,
No,
go,
no, no,
go
no,
read
listen,
online.
Listen, so no
It's just-
verification of license, no license number
We don't
on
do
there,
it
no-
when they get mailed in. Why would we put somebody through that who comes in? Just because I come in, oh, so now you wanna see all that stuff? I don't get that. If I mail it in, you're not asking me for that information.
I'm not.
So I guess we're encouraging people to mail them in.
And again, I'll
I
bet of
think-
those
I think
30 that
ultimately
do
we're
bounce,
encouraging
I bet
them.
they're not
Majority
people
of
who
them are
came
mailed
in because they don't wanna,
Majority of mail.
they're already like, oh, I don't wanna face you because I know I'm writing a bad check.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest respectfully, in the interest of trying to move this thing
Please.
forward, you simply take a head count of those who would like to strike everything after the word check, and then we can move on to the
Excellent.
telephone number.
Okay. After the word check. Striking after the word check. Diane?
No, I want all of C gone, so.
That's not, I just said after the word check.
I'm sorry, I don't want any of C there. So
After the word check,
How do I
Cameron.
answer that?
I'm, for its entirety, I'm with it, so no striking it.
Okay, after the word check. Julie?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, Doug?
Yeah, I'd strike driver's license number. I don't agree with putting that on
Right.
there.
Okay, so you say yes after strike a check. Okay, I got it. After the word check, I also agree. So after the word check, strike, after that, strike all of that.
Okay. So
So
now
no
I would
driver's license
respectfully
number.
suggest, Diane doesn't want the remaining part left. I don't know if the others are agreeable to the remaining part or not.
Roger. So as far as the remaining part of C on this policy, as far as a phone number, that's left on the check if the individual comes in. Cameron?
I'm for it in its entirety.
Okay, good.
As am I.
Okay. Doug? Phone number.
Yeah, I'm okay with phone number.
Okay, and I'm okay with phone number as well. And, you know, the other thing we can add to, just for, you know, giggles here, we do get a lot of mail-in checks, correct? You know, we could actually put a policy that, and a process online, that if they do mail in a check, can you please add, you know, your phone number or something on it? You can actually, it could be, you could do that as well, because I know there are some organizations that, when you mail checks in, that they require you to have sort of additional information on there.
Well, we could even print that on the tax bills that
Yeah, I
go
was gonna
out.
say on
You
the
sure
actual
can,
bill.
yeah, on the actual
And-
tax bills.
And truthfully, you should be looking at a lockbox.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I'm not even sure why you're
I understand.
getting all these.
You're right.
These checks with your staffing levels.
Understood. You're absolutely
And I
100%
think we
right.
should try to have a alternative solution by the annual review time next year.
I
Yes.
totally agree.
Like
I
ATM,
mean, by the next, because this has in here that we're gonna review this policy annually. And I think by our next annual review of this policy, we should have an alternate method,
When you say alternate, you mean additional.
additional.
Debit,
Right.
debit,
ca-
Debit,
counter
credit,
debit or credit
or
card.
Right.
As
electronic
long as the
processing
folks
of the check.
understand that whether it's online or it's at the counter, it comes with that convenience fee.
right.
We all agree the rest of this documentation?
So we'll, if everything else is agreeable, we'll take one last look through it, tweak for, you know,
That is.
corporate body politic, that's you. The town is a corporate body politic.
That's, yeah.
He is such-
When you get this last review, can you send a copy to the chairman of the board of the advisory committee?
Betcha.
Thank you so much.
I've got to check whether that should be capital A and capital C,
Yeah.
or that should be lower F. I don't know what's the right way for that.
We wasted almost a half hour,
I know.
less than 1% of bad checks on just the real estate. I
Financial,
look at that as
po-
dollars.
financial policy manual, table of contents review.
Thanks for your opinion. We appreciate
It
it.
is good, I know. I get it. All right, so here we go. We got, do you want to hit this, or do you want me to hit this with Collins?
I would have you carry this one, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so great. So anyways, as far as the grant that we received in the Collins Institute, we put together this, this list of priorities. Obviously, it's 1 through 70, different policies and procedures, from accounts payable all the way, and you can see on the right-hand side where it says priority, the 1s, 2s, and 3s. Collins is working on the 1s, obviously, with us. So, basically, I mean, we should have, I think Mike's gonna be talking to us next week, or this,
I think,
next
I
week?
forget now.
I forget now, I think it's next week. He's supposed to be providing us some templates as far as what we can then present to the Board of Selectmen.
I'm talking behind you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, with that being said, as you can see where the priority is, and, I mean, unless you guys have any questions or disagreements, I think we're gonna stick with the priorities as is. But nevertheless, we're still gonna work with our financial team in place, as well, as long as we have Carter, and look at if we can get some of these 2s knocked off, or some of the 3s, whatever that the finance team feels that we need. We're gonna work all together to get this thing done. But like I said, just the financial piece, that's 70 policies just in the financial office.
So
Yeah.
the intent here is to create a table of contents. Some will come from staff, as did the NSF, because they're driven by immediate need. Something happens which brings it to our attention. We're actually, I think Carol Lee has started, I gave her a draft turnover. We have departments that do not turn funds over on a regular basis. We've spoken to you about that. That poses not only cash flow issues, but loss, risk of loss issues. And for our customers like me who go in every third day to try to make sure the check is cleared and the checkbook is balancing and they don't see it there, they wonder what the heck we're doing with it. So some the staff will work on,
Yep.
some Collins will start drafting, some will obviously need to be joint reviews with the advisory board, not all of them. And certainly not the ones that seem to offend the chairman's sense of the right thing to run this community. But we wanted to make sure we got this table of contents out to you kind of as, to get the juices stirring about, was there something that you had thought of that really should be there and we've somehow missed it?
And did they make any comment on exactly the amount of the grant, how much they would be able to achieve with the amount of funds they had received?
It's time driven, so they haven't said no. No, they haven't said we will absolutely positively do
All the
1
ones.
through 26.
Yeah, they didn't say that.
They'll do
okay.
some drafts, they'll kick them
Did they
back.
hint
depends
at
on
it
how
or
much
anything like
time.
that? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
No, I don't.
Just
No.
curious.
We
We're pushing
started
them,
to
though.
get into it. We started to get into it, and then truthfully, with Kelly's energy and some of my energy, we really were concentrating on the audits. And it was only once we had the exit conferences that we were really able to get back to this.
And they did extend us out till,
We'll have a
September,
article, not an article, excuse me, an agenda item for you Monday night to extend them out 6 months to complete all their work.
it should be great. Anybody have any
Using the
questions?
Grant funding.
Yes, it's just an extension of time. Also, one of their team is out on
Maternity.
maternity leave.
Yeah.
So even if we'd been cooking right along, they lost part of their team on this for a while.
So we'll see that on Monday night.
So I agree that reconciling cash and receivables needs to move up the list greatly. Number 27. I'm not really sure where you want to put it and what you can move down the list, but
Oh, we already
that's-
made it higher. that's a
Well, that's not on
priority.
here, so where did you make it?
You got the same one I got?
No?
They haven't issued a new sheet coming out of our meeting.
Oh, okay, it's higher, because that was one of the things in the DLS report, as well as the management letter from the DOR, from the
A
accounting.
monthly reconciliation between Collins and us will actually, I expect will be coming to you within 2 weeks.
Right,
Because it's not just, it's reconciling the cash book, the GL, the receivables, and that's another matter
and payroll.
that we met with the sewer on tonight. So I'll brief you on that in the morning.
Okay.
But we are gonna put together a small team, because the audit report noted that we're not reconciling to sewer receivables
Right,
either.
and that's hurting us, especially on
That's
the
hurting
DE1.
us. And right
gonna
now,
kill us.
we have no way to do that, because we aren't doing the collections. So
We
we
have-
don't get the commitment,
And we don't get what's paid
we don't get what's paid,
and what's out there.
and there is no way to test that they have actually billed for everything that should be billed. So they did commit tonight
Yep.
to working on that with us, Diane.
Good.
Management letter, and the follow-up on the audit. This is some of the stuff that you did, Cameron.
Yeah, I
So I'll let, if you don't mind,
to the Carter.
you can just briefly go through.
This is just everything that we had talked about in the, at that, on the previous workshop that we had.
Right.
And these are
Send it out.
the actual, not policies, I don't believe, these are actual, the breakdown of material weaknesses and the best practice suggestions, why they happened, what the actions to remediate them were, and what the current processes are. And then kind of the notes that we took, recommendations per the meetings. So in this Excel spreadsheet, it generates to a Gantt chart. So I had these other 4 additional columns put down.
Right.
So when we wanted to start them, when we wanted to finish them, when we, when they were actually completed, and what kind of priority we were looking at, so that we could kind of have a working document to kind of tackle these one at a time and get them, through, so we're not working at 6 different things at the same time.
Well, obviously with input from the financial team, I think would be key as well. Knowing what, the accountant, the treasurer collector,
Absolutely.
Luann's office, what their capabilities are at this point.
I know after the meeting, I passed it off to Carter, and then I think
I think
to Kelly as
my
well.
only immediate comment would be that we, and Mary Jane Handy had made a suggestion on a similar Gantt chart that we were developing, was that we really should add responsible party.
Yeah, person responsible to do the job.
And if that's a team, if that's, whoever that's gonna be, however that's gonna be done.
Well, even if it's a team, there should be a lead team member,
Absolutely.
and that lead team member should take responsibility for it.
They should have the ultimate responsibility.
Yep.
Yes. But I think that that would be an important addition.
Okay.
Do we have room on your thing to add that?
Oh, yeah,
Like a name?
absolutely. And it wasn't attached to this, I don't believe. Oh, it was actually, the Gantt chart on the back.
Yes.
Remediation. So all of these, once we get the dates in and things like that, it will generate to this Gantt chart.
Okay.
Kind of give us a
Okay.
working
This is public. Do you know what I'm
idea
saying?
of what's going on.
That's good, yeah.
I'm not really, that scares me a little bit.
And then the last 2 pages of this, that's kind of what's driven onto the Gantt chart. It's actually.
I
should be
gotcha.
hidden, but-
I gotcha. And some of these will be taken care of just by the process of the policies,
Yes.
and the procedural things that,
Yes.
Kel, your office, as well as, and how things are gonna process, and obviously, holding people, accountable and responsible
That's
for
not
their
procurement.
actions,
Right.
good or bad.
Yeah, not purchase,
Right.
it's procurement.
And a lot of these things, I mean, there is still a handful, but a lot of these things have been corrected in FY '17. So, like I worked, with Carol Lee, like the general fund overdraft.
Yep.
I have worked with Carol Lee, and we have set up the appropriate checking accounts that we should have, and all of the funds have been transferred to the appropriate checking accounts so that we show exactly what we do have in our general fund accounts of what to use. And I've been working with her every week to make sure that she understands the process of what needs to be transferred where, so that there's still a very clear picture to make sure that we do have the general fund money. She's gonna be going to the bank tomorrow to open the separate checking account for the bond proceeds that we received. There's, the part that we've already paid out will need to be reimbursed to the general fund, but then we will have those funds in a separate checking account. So as bills were paid, we will transfer from that checking account to cover those expenses. So that we're, all on, where we're supposed to be, and that we're not overfunding the general fund, because I know that was that was a big issue.
It was.
Yeah.
So you're saying the general fund stuff, as far as what you see there, that's been completed?
So what I'm gonna suggest is,
Yeah.
Just go
that,
through this
I'm
and
gonna
give it
have
back.
Kelly,
Yeah,
go
to hear what others
through
do.
this. I'll go through it with her.
Mm-hmm.
For those items that have been completed or are in progress,
Right.
we'll fill in the completed section, give you an update. The question becomes, question one is if the board likes this format. Question two, if you would like us to work with someone as the lead on this, so that we can, shoot everything back to Cameron and he
Yeah,
can
that's fine.
If you want, I'll
collate
share.
and
That'd be good.
reproduce, the next iteration. So if you like the format and you would like Cameron to keep the lead on this.
So we
we'll
just have to add responsible
Person.
party.
Yep.
Yeah. It's fine.
And then just, vet it and.
Yeah.
see
Well, what we
you
can do is we
find
can give
and-
completed and
just
then we
one
can maybe
person.
sit with him and put, who we think
Names.
makes the best
Right.
responsible party.
Gotcha,
And,
makes sense.
be back to you for, your next workshop or another date that.
I
I'd
think
like
the
to
next
shift-
workshop should be fine, right, Karen?
Well, I wanted to shift off agenda to that DLS letter if.
Yes.
If we might. There's a matter that came up today
Yes.
that we did not know about at the time that we put this together.
This is the Division of Local Services
I
dated May
came-
23rd.
I came to learn today, good Lord, I thought I had 5 of these. I was sure I had printed up 5 of them.
Oh, John has one.
John
doesn't he?
has one.
I don't
Okay,
have one.
if we can make sure.
Here, Chuck. I can-
So I came to learn today of a letter dated May 23 from the Department
I sent it to you
of
today 'cause you never got
Local
it.
Services, Mary Jane Handy, Director of Accounts. It follows up upon the exit conference materials and the letter that we had back in April, was it? Page 1 essentially is, well, page 1, page 2. The vast majority of page 3. I didn't realize they'd ask for that. I'll ask you about that.
A lot of it's the management letter.
Page
again.
4 is just a recitation of, everything you can see in the rear view mirror.
Yep.
How we got where we are.
Okay.
Page 5, I'd like to draw your attention to. They have, and they did a similar thing with Winchendon, and I think with some Lawrence and with some other communities. They have 4 specific bullet points going forward. The FY 2018 budget, I just got to check in with them because we've actually already done that. We did that in an afternoon session here with Deb Wagner, and that was what caused that last-minute adjustment
From the auditor.
to the budget. So I just want to make sure if they're asking for something different, I get it to them. The next bullet is that they want monthly reconciliations of the key general ledger account balances. And we'll just simply add them. We've already created a chart of, cash book by here, receivables by here. We had some bullet points. We just need to add getting it off
Gotcha.
to them. The next one is they want to monitor the progress of the 2017 year-end close. Unless there's something, horrible that comes up, we're actually working forward pretty decent.
When they say monitor, how
shape,
hands-on are they referring to? I mean, they're not gonna be in the building.
Well,
are they?
I'll get to that in a moment. And they want to see the 2017 audit before they'll certify free cash. They want to see a pro forma tax recap for FY 18 before they'll certify free cash and then give us approval of the FY 18 tax rate recap. None of these are big things, it's just there for the first time, as opposed to being told to us and us recasting it back to them in a memo, they're putting it in their letter. They've made some suggestions that we've just talked about, which is the comprehensive set of policies and procedures. They've asked us to look at some changes to the banks that we use. They're not overly impressed with the investment yield you can get off MMDT.
Yep.
That, I think, will depend upon who we can get in as a treasurer, because that does take some effort.
It does.
I suspect you used MMDT because it's safe, you deposit it there, you get a yield, and there's no thinking about it.
Right.
The next is they've suggested that we look at some changes in health insurance benefits.
Which we
I
are,
am in process of putting together that request for proposals
right.
on retaining a benefits consultant to help the Insurance Advisory Committee walk through that, introduce them to the different insurers, different benefit platforms. So I think we're on there, in shared services, which we talk about off and on. And finally, they say that they would welcome the opportunity to come and discuss their concerns jointly with the Board of Selectmen and the Advisory Committee. This ties back to the previous work that we just talked about. Cameron, ties back to the Collins pieces. And I guess my question to you is if you want to take advantage of that offer, and what date might be convenient for you, or dates might be convenient for you to have that joint meeting and have Ms. Handy
I think it's very
come
important.
out.
Yeah, since they've requested it,
I
we
don't-
should certainly
Address it, absolutely.
participate it.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we all have to play in the same sandbox, so I think that's very important, so.
I think they should give us dates and we should adhere to them.
Well, Miss
I mean,
Handy's,
they're the ones who are coming out here, and we just have to go, oh, okay, well, we'll make that.
she said that she will arrange her schedule accordingly, so, we can give her
She was
multiple
asking
dates.
us for dates.
Yeah, she's asking us to be considerate, I'm sure.
I mean, we'll
I think
push it out
whatever
there.
date we use, though, we should have this updated, so we need to get, back with Cameron on what's really been done, what our, projection, so that the Gantt charts, kind of filled in.
Shows that we're doing something.
Meet
yeah.
with her to show us that we have made, progress, and, we'll have some more information from Collins on the policies and procedures by then, so.
Or like your email says, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we need to do this.
So
I
like
mean,
the-
this letter came
like
out
the
and
20
nobody
The 23rd. No, we
responded to it.
Well, Carter never got, the
I never got
BOS
it.
never got
It
it.
was only sent to the Board of Selectmen,
Oh, let's see, I
and you're the chair.
yeah, but I didn't know, I didn't know.
You didn't get it?
No, I got it. I did get it.
I
So-
didn't get this.
I didn't get it. Me and you
Well, I
didn't.
know,
Email? No,
yeah,
I
you
didn't
did.
get
So,
this.
My
I,
email address was
so
on
you
it.
didn't, I saw it came, I went to do a reply to all, and it only came back to me for Cam and for Doug, and I just said, we got this letter, and I want to know why we haven't set anything up yet. And theirs came back to me because they were completely wrong, but yours looked right, and I didn't, so it went to Mary Jane, it went to everybody who sent us that email.
Yeah, and
So at this
Goby,
moment, I
Senator
just
Goby.
think, I mean, the Gantt chart should be able to be fixed fairly quickly, and then,
You wanna do
you know.
the 21st? June 21, it's a Wednesday. That way we can invite the advisory committee, give them enough time.
Well, they normally meet on Wednesdays, is that, I'm sorry, I just can't always come, so,
This is our last meeting
Okay.
for this year.
June
Well,
21st
wouldn't it
is
be
your.
nice to have it with them?
For this fiscal year, let's not.
It's a meeting, does it count as a meeting? No?
What's that?
I was talking to myself.
Okay.
I
Shouldn't do that,
should have
though.
learned years ago to not talk
So-
to myself unless I'm willing to share. And I'm unwilling to not share
You're
my,
not sharing what you talked about?
You were
not sharing
eavesdropping.
this one.
Okay,
You were eavesdropping on his private conversation.
I'm sorry.
himself.
I didn't
No, I
mean,
think, I
Be
think
the
that
same man.
we should just, I mean, again, it's really more when they can come out here. I mean, it's not just, I mean, pick some dates, It doesn't have to be, it could be a Thursday, it could be, you know what, for me, I think it's crucial that we meet with them if they're asking for that. So I'm willing to
I'm not disagreeing with you.
rearrange
This would be held
whatever.
at
I don't
the
think
night.
we should ever
Let me
do
pull up the
it.
calendar.
I'm just saying, I'm willing to,
20,
I'm not gonna
20,
choose dates, I'm
21?
gonna say I'll have to be here.
21st, 22nd.
23rd, it's Friday night, I love Friday nights.
We want to give them a
That's
few
right.
dates,
Real
right?
party, yeah.
I'm sure
Should
they're not
give
gonna
them,
come out.
yeah.
So the 21st and the 22nd, is that?
Sure.
21st is a Wednesday, correct?
Yes, and the 22nd's a
And the
Thursday.
22nd is a Thursday, not a Friday.
It's a Thursday. No, but I said Friday to the 23rd.
Oh, you said Friday.
I did.
Oh, I'm not doing
I can go
Friday.
any,
Or should we just give her the option of any night the week of the 19th?
I think we should just give,
19th through the 23rd, any, whatever night.
Whatever night's convenient for them to come out. Yeah, that
I
sounds good.
will
'cause at
share
least
with
we're
you
giving them
that,
a date.
I will only be here the 12th and 13th next week. So if we could try to avoid the 19th, that would give me Monday to work with Cameron. It would give us just a little bit more time, because
Sure.
I will,
Just ask.
I won't be available at all. I'll be in northern Maine.
so 20, I think if you give them 21 and 22,
Paddling.
and you give them a 2 weeks notice,
28 and 29, or?
that's 3
Give 'em
weeks.
21
I wanna
and
go sooner, I
22.
want this
Well, I'm
meeting.
just saying if they can't do it.
So why
Oh.
don't we offer them June 21st and 22nd,
For the following-
and/or June 28th and 29th?
yeah.
Are we done?
Okay, good, moving on.
And Kelly, do you want me to come in on one of those days for, when we sit down and discuss this? We can all just sit down, me, you, and Carter, and just.
Yeah, I think that when we go to do the responsible parties, it would be best if we could sit down and explain to you, this is completed, here's where we are in this,
Yeah.
and then have a group conversation about who will be the best lead.
Yeah, I can come in on a, whatever day you guys
Yeah.
wish. We can just sit down
I
and take care of it.
just, I mean, I haven't seen this until right now, so
Okay.
it'll take me, I need to read through it and
Yep.
see where we are.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
go,
not sure I'm available the 28th, 29th, but
Okay.
that's okay. I mean,
I know,
I'm only one person.
So
Some
you
of
wanna
those days
strike
either. I'm
that
just thinking,
from
give them
the
2
group
days in
then?
1 week and 2 days in the next, and
Yeah, just
they'll
pick
kick
some.
it
If
back
they
when
tell
they're
us no,
available.
then
Maybe
they'll
they'll
pick
that's
come
fine,
once
just leave it
one
as
week
the,
and once the next.
if Doug can't make it, it's okay. I mean, Doug, is it okay with you if we
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to,
address
you
it?
know,
The sooner the better.
right, you know, respond to them.
But I think they're gonna be like the 21st and 22nd is gonna be fine with them.
And I
That gives them
think
2
we'll be
weeks'
ready.
notice, yes. Talk about the FY17 budget transfers.
I don't have any for you this
I
evening.
will table that for next.
We've, if we do need any internal transfers, we'll have them on your agenda Monday night. We've made one request from the emergency reserve, because we felt that it fit
Okay.
that statutory. And we've made one request for an internal transfer, which I transmitted electronically, and I believe the original was out in your box tonight for you.
Okay. Updated policy and procedures of the Board of Selectmen. Anybody, you get a chance to read that?
I did, but I'm unfamiliar with what has changed.
Yeah, I don't.
Nothing's changed yet. I can see that there's some changes that need to be made.
Yep. Oh, so this is unedited, this is completely.
This is our-
Okay.
This is it,
Parent.
current version, which was a great document. I think I knew the individual that put this together. But if you go to executive session, header, at the header, executive session, halfway down it says executive session should only occur when all members, capitalize all members, are present.
I'm sorry, I don't know where we are.
Executive session.
Page 4?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Anyway,
Says
see,
if practical. Executive sessions.
executive session should only occur when all members are present. Doesn't say practical. It says executive session should only occur when all members are present. Now, it should say if practical, it should say if available, it should say a whole bunch of things. My concern is, I mean, obviously, we're trying to update this so it's a better working document for the Board of Selectmen. Tying your hands and feet together, so which means if we have any executive session, we can't have it unless we're all here together.
In the very beginning of the sentence, it says if practicable.
It does.
And it does say should.
Right, should.
Executive session should. Doesn't say it has to or must, it should.
Should only.
So if there is a true need,
Yeah, it says should only.
Oh, should only.
Should only is the word.
Yeah, it says should only occur.
should only.
Only occur when all members are present. Should only. So that tells me, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong, I mean, that tells me that we all have to be present.
Now, my question, so you wanna change that now? I'm just to play devil's advocate, right? So what happens if all 5 members aren't present at an executive session? What could
Right.
potentially happen if?
And that's happened. I mean, it's happened.
Goes on, else.
We've had executive sessions with, well, all of us being present, so we're, somewhat in violation of this.
So what are the pros and cons of making sure that all 5 members are there? I mean, because they're not,
Well, the government still has to move, so I mean, vacations happen, people miss, people are sick. I mean, and you can't stop government because, I'm sick or Diane's sick or even you're sick or.
I think a lot
Well,
of them
but again,
happened
too,
while I
I
was
mean,
ill.
yes, government still has to move.
Mhm.
However, if it's a critical subject, that's a different story than if it's, yeah, we need to discuss this, but if we discuss it this week or we discuss it 2 weeks from now, isn't going to affect the way the government operates. So you got 3 people this week, but we'll have all 5 people 2 weeks from now.
Let's do it.
Having this discussion or this executive session isn't gonna shut down or hamper the government over the next 2 weeks, then yes, it should be put off. If that issue is critical enough that yes, it's gonna impact what's gonna occur over the next 2 weeks, then yes, you should go ahead and do it with the fewer members.
But that's not how it's written, though.
Yeah,
So maybe we need, that's what I'm saying, I
clarify.
mean, again, this is a workshop, so let's work in progress here.
Yep.
You're right, Doug, I mean, if things aren't time sensitive and we can wait, then we can wait, and I think, Diane, I think we have waited. There's been times we wouldn't go into a vote on something until we had all members.
Well, I know that we've waited to do certain things, as public, but I mean, this last winter, when I was sick and sick and sick, government shouldn't stop because
We went into executive
it-
session
it
last
should
week with
not.
3
It
members.
just, the way
Did
that
we
it
not?
is. I mean, you can participate.
So that's
I
my
did my
point.
best to participate remotely. There's no reason that
Nope,
anybody of us
telecon.
couldn't participate remotely, and I think that we have
You
to,
went into executive
I think
session
there's a
last week?
reason
We
to.
did, with 3 members.
I missed it. I didn't get an update since last week. Nice.
But again, last week was a situation where the discussion
Well, only
probably did
3
need to
people
take
were
her.
there
Wouldn't-
for
didn't
the
wanna wait.
interviews, so that's why.
No, all the reasons are there. My point
Right,
being,
right.
it's not written as,
It's not written
so
to cover us.
technically we're in violation of the policy and procedure.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And if
That's
we're
exactly what I'm
updating
saying. So I'm trying to
policies-
update the policy to make it work so everybody's in compliance versus getting whacked every time we step outside the lines.
Well, I think it's a good idea that we should all be there, and we just have to word it that there are times where members cannot be. We just have to reword it.
Executive session is-
That's
I
exactly
agree.
what I'm saying.
Government moves,
Unless deemed necessary by
yeah, I don't,
the chairman of the board, or unless deemed necessary by the board, and, you can keep that, should only occur when all members are present, unless deemed necessary.
that would probably be more likely by the town administrator who does things on the day-to-day basis, not the chairman of the board.
Okay, so yeah.
So that's how I see that, but if he says, oh, it could wait, then it should wait. If it cannot, then it should not.
Do you think that's applicable, Carter?
What? I missed that. So the town administrator is gonna deem the,
Whether or not if it's crucial, if everybody's not at a meeting because someone's sick or can't be there, or,
I think that ultimately that's the board's decision. The administrator might be able to advise you.
just advise, that's what I mean.
That,
This is time
geez,
sensitive. We
guys.
should
That's what I
probably-
I really need to chat with you about this. I don't have 2 weeks to wait.
Right, that's what I mean by that.
And so, you might reword it something along that the chairman has said, when time permits or something like that, it should be put off. But usually it's going to be
Less time
the time
sensitive.
administrator or the town administrator and perhaps a board member they've been working on something with. I may have been working on something with the chairman, you're all aware of it, but he has the most immediate knowledge to tell you it really can't wait, or I may have been asked to work on something with your future town administrator may have been asked to work with something with Diane.
Right.
Where they had a meeting earlier in the day and they have the most immediate information.
Understood. Okay, I'll throw something together and I'll send it out.
Yeah, that
to the
makes
board, if
sense
that's
to
okay.
change
I'll
that.
send it to,
Catch
I'll
all.
actually send it to Carter, and then he can send it out to the rest of the board.
Okay.
The only other thing, again, it goes back to.
Do you mind if the staff makes a few suggestions?
Absolutely.
As well?
I have several
From our
suggestions.
observations.
So, I,
Yep, go ahead.
no, I don't, I can just send them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, please. Because there was another one on page 5, top of the page, number 3. Appointments will normally be made only when all members, again, when all members of the board are present. So there are sometimes when we do appointments that someone might be out sick or something like that. Again, appointments are typically appointments to each board and committee. Page 5, top,
we said page
number 3.
Page 5, number 3.
Oh, these are
Top.
all out of order.
Okay.
So, and again, if any other suggestions the boards have, please send them to Mr. Tanzini. And I have a few more myself. Those are two biggie ones, but there's some other wording ones that we can send to him as well. If anybody else has any questions.
I've been looking online, also at several towns have a code of conduct,
Mhm.
that I would like to, add. And I think some of it, is in here, and some of it, is not, so I'll just change it.
I was gonna say, there is a code of conduct in this. Is it just not the same as other towns?
There's just a few additions or subtractions, or, it looks like, I could see some piecemealing from different places.
Okay. So you want to subtitle like code of conduct specifically?
I'll just send it to,
Okay.
oh, it's just board ethics. I mean, ethics is ethics. I mean, that to me is like, you know, if you're, I'll look at it,
Okay.
that's all. I had other, I'll just send them all to whomever has it.
Okay. Any other discussion with the policies and procedures? And please, if everybody has any, like, Diane, if you can send them to Carter, that'll be great. So then Carter can send any type of changes. That'll be fantastic.
Is this not, is that your, I don't know where that came from.
I don't either.
I don't know if it was in my packet, or, does that look familiar to you?
That's the IRS one?
Oh, yeah, what is that?
Yeah, it's
He-
in To the package.
I don't know what that was. I don't recall seeing that being emailed to me in my packet. So I was just wondering, Kim has it too?
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay, I guess everybody does. I don't know what that was. Maybe it didn't belong there. It's just a license update or something?
It was probably in the copier.
We got all the copy? I don't know, maybe.
I,
Oh, that's true.
That's an
I-
EIN.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's got, look at the last page.
No,
The last
it's,
few pages, I
It says,
just
like,
didn't
Social
know there was
Security and
nothing on
Federal
here.
identification number.
Wow.
Nice. Okay.
I don't know, Diane.
Okay, well, everybody did get one. I
Oh.
don't know if we should not have, and we should pass them all back in. And if it's a
Probably shred these.
pri-
so it's the-
private
Yeah,
matter?
I would suggest,
So, thank
I'll
you.
confirm with Holly as to why they were not in my packet for whatever
Okay.
reason, so.
I wasn't.
I fibbed, they are in my packet, and I have no clue why. Because I don't know why the attestation is there either, so I'm gonna have to check. I'll let you know.
And also the last thing, obviously, the town lapel pin policy, as you can see, I spent a little time with it, as much as I could, with everything else that's going on in John's life. But if you guys just wanna take a look at it, read it, I mean, if you want additions, subtractions, obviously, this will be something else we can, send to the advisory committee for some review and some increasing input. I just think it's a great thing.
You get a spelling error at the bottom.
There's
4.
several of them.
C.
We'll read service.
Yep.
So I cut it a brief
glance, I'm no proofreader.
I typed it pretty quick.
You have another spelling error under effective date, supersedes. I think that's
Yep.
with a C instead of an S after
Yep.
the R.
I'll go through it again. But again, if you guys, I mean, if you wanna add stuff to it, I mean,
I
it's
thought
not
it
just
looked
about
good.
pulling it apart for
Yeah, I mean,
punctuation.
no, I don't
I
mean to
just
pull it
wanna,
apart, I'm
you know,
just
no, it's, no,
letting you know.
it's okay. I mean, I'm not an English major by no means. I'm trying to, you know, move the town in the same direction as everybody else. But, you
No,
know,
I think it looks good.
just, if you wanna add things or take things away, I mean, please, if you can send those to me, that would be great. Any questions with that?
Is it gonna come up for vote at our
I
next
just
meeting?
don't want this to be, oh, I'm sorry,
Okay.
a cost to the town, like moving forward, their pins, and I know that's not much, but you said that you were, paying for them out of your pocket, but someday down the road, that's not really gonna be, the case. You're not gonna do that however often we have to order them. I mean, if it's everybody, all town employees, all elected officials, all non-elected officials, all committee and all board members, that's a lot of pins over the years, that's all. But, yeah, there were just some typos, and I think that, Cam found them, but I just don't want it to be a cost to the community. That's all.
Okay. General discussion?
I had nothing further. I will be asking for a executive session, however.
Okay. Any other general discussions?
Make a motion for the executive session?
Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully request the board go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21.2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. Based upon my conversations with one or two of you earlier in the day, you may actually have a vote to take after this.
So we'll come back in.
I don't know that you will, but we do need to announce if you're going to reconvene for a vote, even if you don't actually take that vote, or if you're simply going to be adjourning.
We'll reconvene for a vote,
Possible.
possible.
So
Okay.
moved, sorry.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Well, Second, thank you so much. Any other discussion? Cam? Yes. Diane?
Yes.
Yes.
Doug?
Yep.
And I vote yes as well.